Let me make sure I'm in the right place. Alrighty, so the way that we're going to be communicating here is through the chat. So I went ahead and enabled it for everyone, but if you can just type into the chat um, if you're pregnant, how far along you are, where you live, and this is where we're going to be answering any questions that you might have. Um, and if you can't access the chat because sometimes it's like disabled, I want you to go to the Q&A and please just let me know. So if it says disabled, please go to the Q&A and let me know that that has happened. Okay, now I'm going to share my screen. Alrighty, so welcome everyone to How to Have a Strong Core in Pregnancy. And I'm trying to see why I cannot expand this. We'll just make it bigger. No, back. Better view for you all. Okay, so once again, we're going to be communicating through the chat. Make sure that you can access that if you have any questions. If it's disabled on your end, just go to the Q&A and let me know. And I'll just be keeping an eye out for that. So if you have any questions at all, pop them into the chat and I'll just kind of be keeping an eye out for those. And then if the chat is not working, go to the Q&A. All right. How to have a strong core in pregnancy. So this is super important. I'm really glad that you are here today. I'm going to be talking on out. Why? Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Sorry. Sometimes I'm having all these technical issues. Today is better. The last 2 days are a little bit rough, but hopefully today I've got this down. Okay. So my name is Talia. I am a pelvic floor physical therapist. I own Holistic Pelvic Health in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I specialize in pregnancy and postpartum, although I treat all pelvic floor conditions, including men. Here is a picture of me in my old clinic that I was in a year ago, but now I'm in my new clinic, which is here. What you're seeing behind me today is our little gym. We have a little bassinet in case anybody brings a baby. And I myself am 35 weeks pregnant and I am feeling it. Okay. So in this webinar, we're going to be talking about how you can keep your abdominal wall strong during pregnancy. To help decrease your risk of back pain and pelvic pain during pregnancy, and diastasis recti postpartum. And there's even more benefits to having a strong core or abdominal wall in pregnancy. You're going to decrease your pee leaks. Oh my gosh, you all, this year has been so crazy. All of my moms have been just constantly sick and everybody's just leaking pee with coughing all the time. It's been so hard. So having good core activation is going to decrease those problems. And they're going to decrease the onset or risk of developing pelvic organ prolapse, which is when the organs in the body start to descend and fall out of the vagina, which can happen. I know that sounds super scary, but we can totally fix that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what diastasis recti is now, in case you're not familiar. Okay, what is diastasis recti? So diastasis recti is the separation of the superficial layer of abdominal wall. So rectus abdominis is the 6-pack, or in this case, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're showing like a 10-pack. I don't actually recall how many hacks there are, but it's one muscle group that is intersected by all of this fascia. So that's what creates like the different little bumps. But that said, this is going to happen in the third trimester. This is just part of it. The baby is going to be spreading the abdominal wall to the point where you will have probably a little bit of coning or doming. That's, pretty key indicator that you've got diastasis recti. And it's normal, remember, in the third trimester, because what actually really matters the most are the muscles underneath. So this is a superficial muscle. Unfortunately, a lot of us start to overly rely on this muscle group, which we'll be talking about today, which can create a distended belly or mommy tummy postpartum. So even if you don't still have an actual diastasis recti postpartum, a lot of my clients are just kind of unhappy with the landscape of their belly. And it's usually because of what they have learned to rely on to be their primary abdominal muscle. And we want our core to be made up of our diaphragm, our deep abdominal layer, which is transversus abdominis, which I'll talk about in just a second, our pelvic floor, and our spine, and not our obliques or our rectus abdominis. So when we have a mismatch of that, which can happen easily both without pregnancy, this can happen to men too, but pregnancy is a time where breathing gets really difficult. Good diaphragmatic activation is really difficult. If we can't breathe well, we can't use our abdominal wall very well, our pelvic floor doesn't work very well, and then all of those things can get kind of messed up vice versa. So pregnancy is a very vulnerable time for core activation to kind of fall apart. So that's why you're here, and I'm so glad. Okay, so you will have a diastasis, and then after the baby is born. Now, let me rephrase that. You really shouldn't have it till the third trimester. So if you're seeing a lot of coning or doming in the first or second trimester, don't freak out, but also know that this is a good class for you and that we need to be working on a lot of deep core activation techniques and hopefully kind of fixing that. If this is not your first baby, you might be seeing more spreading of the abdominal wall a lot faster. So there is that. That's a possibility that will maybe have a little bit of a faster diastasis onset, but at the same time, you just need to know how to activate your core correctly. Just so important. And then, excuse me, I've got like pregnancy congestion all the time. I didn't have that with my first kiddo. This pregnancy has brought all kinds of new challenges, but okay. So two-finger gap, we're moving away from the whole idea of like a gap being the way that we really measure severity of diastasis recti. We're thinking more about depth, but still to this day, a two-finger gap is considered normal postpartum. If you're having a wider than a two-finger gap, that is probably abnormal. All of that, a two-finger, unless it resolves within 3 months. So if it resolves within 3 months or 6 months, they're giving you 6 months. I think 3 months is like really when I'm looking like, things haven't really changed, then we're going to probably need some intervention, but your hormones are changing up until 6 months. So you may have some more time. But ultimately, if you have like a four-finger gap and you still got it at 6 months, then you're going to need some kind of intervention. And doing the work that we're doing here today is going to help decrease that severity. So, yay. All right, don't forget, we're putting our questions in the chat, which I'm trying to pull up here, which is so challenging. Okay, there we are. Just move that. Okay. All right, so the layers of the abdominal wall. All right, so we have 4. The most superficial is rectus abdominis, which we just talked about. That's the one that is going to spread, and that's what the whole Latin diastasis recti, rectus abdominis is like a separation of that. Excuse me, is referring to DRA. It's a complicated term, but it's it's basically just referring to like that muscle getting kind of spread out, especially toward the umbilical region. That's really common, but you can have above or below, either one, and all of that has a different underlying cause. And then we have our obliques. So we have two layers of our obliques. We have our internal and our external. So those are also muscles that help kind of flex the trunk and move us side to side. And we don't want to be relying on those for our deep core activation either. And then at the bottom, and this isn't the best picture in the world, but this is transverse abdominis, and it goes from the spine all the way around the belly. And I'll show you this more in detail when I stand up here and start exercising for you all. It's gonna wrap around the whole abdomen like a corset, and it's the fibers are horizontal. They're gonna cinch baby and lift baby up towards your head. And they're going to work with your breath. So the better breath that you have, the better transverse abdominis activation you will also have. And the pelvic floor is involved in that as well. And today I'm not really discussing the pelvic floor very much, but just know that that's a part of the deep core. Now, I want to clarify that as we're exercising our core today, you're not going to be feeling like, oh, I did 3 sets of 10 sit-ups and I'm super sore. It's not gonna be anything like that. It's really about activating the natural systems in your body that should be working all of the time that often stop working. And those three muscle groups, the diaphragm, transverse abdominis, and the pelvic floor, they need to be functioning first. They need to fire first before we can load on top of that. So let's say you want to do a crunch, which you're not going to do in pregnancy necessarily, but let's just give that as an example. You need to be able to activate your transversus abdominis first and then do the crunch with these more superficial layers like rectus abdominis and your obliques. Okay, so if you don't have deep core stability, if transverse abdominis doesn't fire first and you're all about rectus abdominis, you're going to have a lot of problems. A lot of problems. We're going to have pelvic floor problems, we're going to have back problems, and you're not really ever going to see any benefit to your exercising. You're going to see a little bit of like maybe upper ab definition, but you're never going to see that lower ab definition that everybody's always trying to attain. And you might even get worse, like mommy pooching. So this is super important that we understand that these postural muscles, they have to fire first. And that happens most through awareness, thinking, breathing, and form and technique. So when we do our reps, we're going to do them for time and you're not going to be sore at all. And that is perfectly fine. Even though you're not sore, you're going to be a whole lot stronger because of it. So, all right. Next. Yeah. Okay. Why do we need to activate the deep core? So deep core, remember, we're talking about your diaphragm, transversus abdominis, which is your deepest core layer. And that's all really we're talking about today. Pelvic floor is in there, but we're not going to be doing a whole lot of that work today. So why? There's so many reasons. We talked about these already a little bit, but good activation of transversus abdominis will help decrease back pain and pelvic pain in pregnancy. It's also going to decrease severity and risk of ongoing diastasis recti postpartum. So we already talked about that. And it's going to increase strength and stability during pregnancy. So for me personally, and this is not everybody's journey right now, but I have a 3.5-year-old, and even though she understands, like I can't really pick her up the way that I used to, and I'm choosing not to do those things as much anymore, there's still circumstances where I do need to pick her up. If we have like a little conflict and she's really upset, I want to set her on my lap if she likes to climb on top of me when I'm in bed, or if I have to put her into the car seat for whatever reason. Those are still circumstances where I need to be lifting, around 25 to 30 pounds. And that's just part of it. When I didn't have her, I could kind of avoid lifting, but now, and I did because I didn't know as much back then, but now we know that actually lifting during pregnancy is not a bad thing. It's actually probably a good thing, but it has to be done correctly and it has to be done well. And that all comes back to how are we activating our core? Okay, Also, if you're super strong in your deep core, you got really good breath work, you got really good transverse abdominis activation, then you might have a little bit of an easier time pushing during labor. Also, it can help decrease the risk of developing prolapse and incontinence postpartum. Incontinence is referring to pee leaks, and actually, I should have put in here that it can decrease the risk of developing incontinence at any time. The stronger your core is, the better off you're going to be. And pee leaks of any sort, so pee leaks that are associated with, the urge to pee and needing to like run to the bathroom, or pee leaks that are coming on with laughing, coughing, jumping, or sneezing. All of those pee leaks are considered urinary incontinence, and all of them can be improved with better core. And then also postpartum healing. Hey, I mean, if you know how to activate your core during pregnancy and you're staying active and healthy during pregnancy, your postpartum journey is going to be a lot faster. A lot faster. Okay, so and you're gonna know where to start postpartum. So I usually don't see my moms until about 6 weeks, but I can, and I am happy to see them earlier than that. But I always teach them this work so that they can start activating their core day one postpartum or immediately, whenever. It's such a huge transition from going from 9 months of growing to a matter of hours or days. Now you are no longer pregnant. That is a massive change. And that's why your body is just like, oh, what happened here? And so then we are loaded up with a newborn and maybe the other kids that we have. And we have big car seats and strollers and all these things that we're just like given. And your abdominal wall is like, like what is happening? That's a really vulnerable time to be developing prolapse, pee leaks, back pain, and all the things. So if you can start doing these exercises immediately postpartum, especially the breathing ones I'm going to show you, you're going to have a leg up on that, and you're going to have a much faster abdominal wall healing postpartum. So when to start? Like I said, as early as possible. If you already are having problems, let's say you're not pregnant, but you're having pee leaks or back pain or things like that, then now is a great time to start for you. If you are pregnant, now is a great time to start for you. If you are postpartum, let's start then. All right, everyone. So we're going to be going ahead and moving into just checking my chat and Q&A. Once again, questions, pop them into the chat. If the chat says disabled, please put them into the Q&A and I will see them there. Okay, so we're gonna pause the screen share. We're gonna stop that and I'm gonna get into the exercises. So all you're gonna need for this is I'm gonna be using my ball. I'm in my 3rd trimester, probably won't be lying on my back here. But if you are earlier on in your pregnancy, you certainly can lie on your back. So if you are comfortable doing that, you can do exercise on your back. That's actually going to be a little bit more challenging. And so in my 1st and 2nd trimester, I did them on my back, but you can always do them in sitting no matter where you are. And that might be helpful just because you can mirror what I'm doing right now. All right, so I'm going to take off my jacket so you can see my belly. And we're going to start with the first exercise, which is all about breathing. All right, so we're going to be working on diaphragmatic breathing, and I'm going to be teaching you what that really means. So a lot of us have been taught that diaphragmatic breathing is all about belly breathing, so breathing into the belly, but that's actually not the case. Diaphragmatic breathing is all about breathing 360 degrees into your thorax. Okay. So I like to think about it as like with regard to the bra line. So our bras, super tight around the diaphragm, especially right now where I'm like a little bit getting bigger and my bras are getting like a little bit small. So I should buy larger bras, but so that I can breathe better. But sometimes I also like to think about it as a little resistance band for my diaphragm. So diaphragmatic breathing is going to be work. You're going to have to push against areas of resistance. And that's oftentimes either into the side rib expansion, forward into this little upper belly part, or the back. So the back is the big one during pregnancy because our backs just get super duper tight as our bellies are pulling us forward. So what you're gonna do is that I like to be in a mirror or in a space where I can see myself. So that could be, I have these big mirrors here, but you can even flip your phone onto a different view where you can see yourself a little bit better, because we're gonna be monitoring for big, like, testy breaths. So if I go, that's not a diaphragmatic breath at all, and that's not gonna help your core at all. And in fact, what that's going to do is create a really shallow breath. Um, and so many of my clients are like having trouble breathing at this, just like I am, out of breath just talking to you. Having trouble breathing, at the third trimester mark or even earlier, and it is really hard. And they often develop these shallow breathing patterns. But what's going to happen is that if that is your go-to style of breath, you're going to develop a lot of hand numbness, a lot of shoulder and neck tension, and potentially a lot of jaw grinding and gripping and things like that. So what we're going to be doing here is teaching you how to come out of that. Now, additionally, breathing down into the belly is not necessarily a deep breath either. And what that's going to do is reinforce the stretching of your abs. So do we need that? No, we really, really don't. Okay, we're going to come to, I'm going to come to side view for you. And for this breathing exercise, I'm going to be focused on breathing into my back, because I think by and large, that's really where people are the most tight. So I actually want to see my back moving toward the wall. My hand looks like so funny right now. It's like a little ghost. Okay, so we're going to inhale. And can you see how I was actually able to expand like the whole length of my spine? A lot of my clients are like, "You're crazy, this is impossible. What do you mean breathe into my back?" And so I have to demonstrate for you so that you can see that I actually literally can expand into my back. And I can do that because I have practiced a lot, but you might be new to this and you might need to practice quite a bit before you actually see movement. So, and the better we can expand into our back or into the tight places that are hard to move with our inhale, the better abdominal activation we're going to get on the exhale in our next exercise. So now that you've seen me do the back mobility, let's do it one more time together. And this is such a good breath for labor, because this will send it all the way down to your pelvic floor, relax your pelvic floor, and that's what we need to get the baby out. Okay, I'm gonna come forward now. I'm going to put my hands on my rib cage. So I'm also still thinking about the back, but now I'm going to think side rib expansion. So I'm going to breathe into my hands. On the exhale, I'm just going to let those ribs come down and together. Now we're going to be practicing this 5 to 10 minutes a day. Ideally, this should be how you breathe all the time. It takes like 3 months of practice to change how you breathe, but you can do it. And so don't get frustrated when you forget everything like 10 minutes after we end this webinar. Just come back to it every day at 5 to 10 minutes, okay? And then now I'm gonna think about breathing into my upper belly. So I'm gonna breathe right up here. If we have a tendency to be kind of superficial ab grippers, in my case, I do have that tendency. A lot of us do. For me, the way that has shown up is a lot more sensitivity around the umbilical area with this pregnancy, as this baby is like barreling forward instead of my daughter, who was like more out to the side. So yeah, that's going to be a fun diastasis situation postpartum, but we have all the tools, right? So we can handle it. But I want you to notice another sign that you're a big time superficial ab gripper is that you have posture like this. Okay, so if you're like always kind of crunched down and you really like to bring your chest down to the floor versus being kind of open and upright, or if you open and upright and you're like, oh, and I have all this like back arching, so I'm either here or I'm here. You're somebody that needs to breathe into this upper ab area because what's happening is that you're gripping from the top and you're just rounding down, and that's going to create so much downward pressure, a lot of P leaks, a lot of other things that are undesirable in both the abdominal wall and the pelvic floor. So for you, we're going to put a hand right here. And we're going to inhale into that space. Try to actually push against, once again, that bra line forward, out this way, only up here, not necessarily down here. Okay, so what's super fun about this one is that this one, because I am an upper ab gripper, when I don't do that, I can actually passively activate my transversus abdominis just by breathing, just by creating a better environment in my thorax for that air. So let me show you what that looks like in standing. Okay, transversus abdominis, my ball over there, stay there. Okay, is once again the corset. So going to wrap like this. So coming from the spine all the way forward. Now, rectus abdominis is our six-pack ab from here down to there. And then our obliques are like doing that and doing that. So we want these directly horizontal fibers to be how we initiate a core contraction. And what they will do is both hug baby and gently lift baby up towards your head. And they fire with a good breath. All right, so it's about a good breath. And then we can add on the exhale a little bit of a support by thinking about wrapping baby and lifting. So we can add a little bit of like active contraction, but the inhale is really important. So when I inhale into my upper abs, I want you to watch what happens to my baby. So I'm going to inhale. And can you see how that like evened out how my back was and that naturally hugged baby up? And I didn't even have to do anything else. All I had to do was breathe in. And that created this great expansion into my diaphragm and unloaded my spine and lifted my baby. Now I wish I could do that all the time. So that's our goal, right? So like every breath and that's happening, but I get super stressed and I get like, and super grippy up top, but that's why we come back to our practice, right? So 5 to 10 minutes a day. Now we're going to talk about actually activating transversus abdominis on the exhale. So I'm going to inhale. Already have a little bit of activation. Now on the exhale, I'm hugging baby in even more. And if I let it all go, it's just like, okay. So I'm going to inhale, exhale. Now that lift should come from the bottom up. All right, once again, all of you who are upper ab grippers, you're going to want to go inhale, exhale. And that's not good. Okay, we want to lift baby from the bottom up, should be lifting baby up off our hip creases. I had a C-section with my daughter, so I could actually feel like a stretch in that scar tissue area as I use my abdominal wall to like lift baby up and off of my hip flexors, okay? So I'm gonna show you in sitting now. So yeah, you can do that in standing, you can do it in sitting. If you have a desk job, you can do it at your desk. If you're more active and upright, then throughout the day, then you can do it as you're kind of like transitioning on and off the floor or, you know, whatever, or in standing. But in sitting, it looks like this. So I'm gonna inhale forward and back and side to side and exhale. So you can see how baby is just getting a little smaller and I'm lifting baby up towards my head. And I'm not getting any coning or doming. So coning or doming is going to be like a little protrusion here, like right in the midline. And for some people it's high, for some people it's low, for some it's dead center, just depending on what's going on kind of like with your firing patterns in your back. And that should not be happening if we're working on transversus abdominis. Like I said, if you're noticing that a little bit earlier in the first or second trimester, you might have some work to do as far as making sure you got these exercises down every day. All right, now we're gonna move on to challenging our deep core with some leg movements. So I'm gonna add some marching and some heel slides. I'm gonna go ahead and back up so that you can really see me. Once again, you can do these on your back, but I'm going to be doing them on the ball. You can do them on a chair, like a hard surface, or a ball is going to be just a tad bit harder than a chair. If you're on a chair, go ahead and sit on the edge of that chair. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to inhale, exhale, pull baby in and lift, and then I'm going to march a leg. And what I'm going to do is try to keep hugging baby, make sure there's no doming, coning, and I just did two with one exhale, but we're gonna do like inhale, exhale, march, inhale, exhale, march. So I'll just demonstrate that again. So I'm gonna inhale, exhale, right leg, inhale, exhale, left leg, inhale, exhale, right leg. And what I'm trying to make sure is happening is that I'm not like wobbling all over on this ball when I go to march. I'm not having like a bunch of back extension when I go to march. I'm not just losing everything. And that my pelvis is like staying pretty darn stable when I go to march. And then next we'll do heel slide. So that's march. And then we're gonna think inhale, exhale. I'm gonna slide a heel forward and then back in. And then inhale, exhale, other leg, and back in. So I'm going to come back to you a little closer and just demonstrate that one more time. So for the march, it's going to be inhale, exhale, marching, and notice how my pelvis isn't like wobbling all over. Everything is staying like almost perfectly still, even though I've lifted a leg. Okay, so that is the goal. If you can keep your deep core active, then you won't have a bunch of movement. If you're kind of giving up in some way or another, you're going to notice like pelvis is shifting or abs are protruding or something like that. So just be working on that. And then heel slides are going to be just sliding a heel forward and back. They're actually a little bit easier because you don't have to lift up against gravity. So these ones I also do for time. All of them, all of these like activation techniques I do for time, because 3 sets of 10 is going to drive you totally crazy. So I just do like 5 minutes of breathing, 5 minutes of inhale, exhale with deep core activation, 5 minutes either of the 2 exercises combined or of each, depending on how good you are at them. And I would do those every single day. And then from there, you can start to learn how to integrate that into, like I said, postpartum, you can start to learn how to integrate that into like your planks and your ab workouts and things like that. But if you are pregnant, you're going to want to be lifting on the exhale with the belly pulling in. So it becomes very functional and very much something that you can translate into your life and help protect you, protect your core and keep you super strong. So for example, with lifting, I've got like a 15-pound or no, it's only, yeah, 15 pounds. Okay. So if I want to lift this up, what I might do is I'll come down here and I'll inhale and I'll exhale. And then on the exhale, I would be lifting up the weight and then bringing it close to my body as fast as I can. So that's just one example. Now, if I'm getting up off the floor, I might inhale and then exhale, pulling baby in. All of those things, if you're experiencing doming with your transitions from getting on and off the floor, or if you're experiencing like P leaks, this may help you tremendously. Or back pain or pelvic pain, all of those things will be helped with this. Okay, what do we have for questions so far? I'm out of breath just demonstrating. So far, everybody is feeling good about everything. Awesome. All right, we're going to screen share again. There we go. And I'm just going to review the exercises for you. So breathing. We're breathing for 360-degree dimensions. Really specifically, most of the time people are either upper ab gripping or tight in their back. So those 2 places. Or wherever you're feeling really restricted, work on breathing into it. You want to be able to breathe all the way around. That's going to create a much better abdominal contraction for you. And as a little bonus lesson today, if you breathe in like that before you cough, sneeze, or blow your nose, you're gonna have way less pee leaks. All right. Hugging baby. Now on the exhale, you're gonna hug baby with the fibers kind of like running horizontally and like cinching in towards your back. And we can do that on the exhale 5 to 10 minutes a day after we do a really beautiful inhale. And then once you're able to kind of get all that like coordinated, go ahead and add some, excuse me, marching and heel slides to sort of challenge your system. And or integrate this into your workouts or lifting your kids or getting on and off the floor, whatever is not going well for you at this time. Getting out of bed, that's like a whole thing for me right now. So I might roll over, inhale, exhale, push myself up, make sure that core system is on. All right. So what else should you be doing during pregnancy? How else can you integrate this into your pregnancy journey? What other ways do you need to be activating your core to stay strong and healthy? Well, what I have done is put together a prenatal course for you to answer all of these questions. So ultimately, in this prenatal course, it will go over these concepts and add to them and start helping you build like an actual workout program in pregnancy that is perfect for you and really focusing on what matters in pregnancy. What I found was like when I was taking my prenatal courses or even looking on YouTube for prenatal exercises, like they just weren't cueing the things that I felt were really important ultimately after I went through that first experience. And then also treating all my patients that I have and need to coach them on, what muscle groups are really key. So in this course, it will teach you all of those things. We'll also go over risk factors to know before you start exercising and like how to do it when you're exhausted all the time. Also, we're going to be learning, I have a bunch of exercises for you if you're dealing with pelvic pain or if you're wanting to decrease it, your risk of developing it. I have a whole host of exercises in this course to show you how to protect your pelvis during pregnancy. We're going to go over more detail on how to lift heavy things. If you have toddlers at home, we kind of scratched the surface of that today. And also to decrease pelvic and low back pain in pregnancy. All of that is super important. And protecting your pelvis, talking about P leaks, prolapse, and all those things that can arise during pregnancies and especially subsequent pregnancies. And then of course, we're going to prepare for birth. This is really the bulk of the course is preparing your pelvis for birth. So how to decrease your risk of tearing, what positions you should be in to decrease your risk of tearing and to help guide the baby out. I'm going to be teaching you where the baby is and what a station is and what different positions to get in to help like ease the baby out if you find the baby's kind of stuck during labor in high or middle low pelvis positions. And then also how to push. How to use your core correctly to push, and then also gathering a birth team who should be on it. We just briefly kind of go over that. I know you all probably have a really good idea of that, but I wanted to reiterate like when you should be thinking about that and who should be on it and how to be talking to your doctors and just get you really, really prepared. So that is the prenatal course, but I'm also adding to the course free prenatal workouts. So what I've done is I filmed myself doing 20 to 30-minute workouts in each trimester. And it's like really don't need a lot of equipment. I think I use a block. Sometimes I use weights. Sometimes I have a kettlebell. Most of the time it's just my yoga mat. And they're quick and dirty ways to just get stronger during pregnancy in the comfort of your own home, targeting all of the muscle groups that I would want you to target and cue to work out during your pregnancy. So obviously you can add to these with your own cardio workouts or more, or you can just do these during your pregnancy. They're going to keep you nice and healthy and strong. And there's cardio options. There's more like stretching and flowing options. And there's also like strengthening options so that you can pick and choose what you want to watch. You can do the same one every day. It doesn't matter. But staying really healthy and strong during pregnancy is super important. Like we talked about both during the pregnancy and for for your baby, for you, and then also for your postpartum outcomes. So I wanted to give you free access to that, and I do update those. I also go over the stuff that we went over today just as a review, so you have unlimited access to that forever and ever. So if you're interested in that, what I want you to do is, it's $140 for the bundle, and you're just gonna go to www.holisticpelvichealthpt.com/prenatal-course, and you can enroll in that today. So if you wanna get those free, prenatal exercises, make sure that you enroll in that as soon as possible. All right, everyone, that is what I have for you. I'm going to give you an awkward pause while I type in the link so that you can just send me any questions that you might still have. And otherwise, we're going to be wrapping up here. So here's the link. Holistic Pelvic Health Prenatal Course. And if you're wanting to sign up for that, let me just make sure it works. Once again, questions, pop them into the chat or the Q&A. I don't remember if there was an S. Oh, okay, yeah, that is the link. So there it is. Once again, if you're wanting to get access to those prenatal courses that I put together, then make sure that you enroll in that as soon as possible. And I hope I will see you in there. And I'll let you all go. Have a great day. Bye-bye.